Today, we're diving into the third installment of a six-part series in partnership with the Ontario Pay Equity Office. We're unpacking a vital topic that often stirs up confusion: the distinction between pay equity and equal pay. I'm thrilled to have Commissioner Kadie Philp here to help clarify these concepts and discuss their impact in the workplace. We're set to explore how these principles differ and why they are essential for fostering a fair and equitable work environment. Welcome back, Kadie.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So I have to admit, on the surface, pay equity and equal pay sound very similar to me. So what is the actual difference between these two?
It is a great question and two concepts that are often confused. So I'll start with the concept of equal pay or equal work, because this is what mostly people understand it. So the idea here, equal pay for equal work is covered by the Employment Standards Act. It's a fairly straightforward concept that says if two people are doing the same job or substantially the same job, they should be paid the same amount of money. So really simple example, if two people are working in a manufacturing line on the same line, moving the same product or good down the line, or have really similar jobs, same working conditions, same level of effort, responsibility, that would be equal pay for equal work. The concept of pay equity, though, takes it a bit further and says, we have a systemic problem where we have undervalued certain kinds of work in the labor market because they've been historically done by women or legally prescribed to be done by women. We talked about some of the laws that kept women in certain lower paid sectors. But pay equity says, no, we have to look at the value or the comparable worth, if you want to understand it like that, of each job and compare that and really compare the level of skill, effort, responsibility, working conditions to get to the essence of the value being provided by that job, and then adjusting if there's unequal pay.
So, okay, I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Equal pay is mandated. It's law. It is enforced, and it's across the board in Canada. Pay equity, as we discussed last time when we talked about the gender wage gap, is still very much present, and that's what we're looking to close, correct?
Yes. Well, yes. And equal pay for equal work is something that is, I think, far more visible also, right? Because if you're standing beside somebody, I'm going to use the manufacturing line because it's easier. It's easy visual. If you're standing beside somebody on the line, you can very clearly say, I'm doing the same work as them. Why aren't I getting paid the same amount of money? So that's a much more visible inequality and much more straightforward to correct. Pay equity or pay inequity is less visible because you're comparing apples to oranges. You're saying, here's two entirely different jobs, but they're providing the same value to the company. And so we need to rethink the value that the jobs provide and adjust pay for that. So maybe it's helpful if I give you an example.
Yes, please.
Okay, it's complicated stuff. So let me give you an example of an animal control officer and a daycare worker. So as I mentioned, when you look at gender neutral job evaluations, you look at level of skill, effort, responsibility, and working conditions. So on the surface, you might say an animal control officer and a daycare worker, how can you compare those, or how can you figure out who provides more value? Well, when you think of like education, the gender stereotype of animal control officer, first of all, is male. For daycare, it's female. When you stop at education, you go, okay, wait, at minimum, to be an animal control officer, you need a high school diploma or equivalent, or maybe just on the job training, or maybe like a 30-hour course on animal welfare. But say for an early childcare worker, daycare workers, you typically need higher level of education, like university, college, a bachelor's degree in early childhood education, may require licensing, all of these types of steps, right? You may also both require animal control and early childcare, first aid, medical training, behavior management, animal handling skills, people handling skills. Animal worker would need knowledge of animal laws and related emergency situations. Well, same with the daycare worker. They would need, knowledge of child development. When you think about the effort that goes into those two jobs, okay, you would say, well, animal control is pretty physically demanding because it may include lifting and restraining animals. It's emotionally demanding because it deals with dealing with distressed animals or impacted parties or emotional people, and, potentially aggressive animals. When you flip that with childcare worker, well, also physically demanding, lifting and carrying and comforting children or engaging children and enclosed spaces, very emotional demanding. If there's any mothers out there, the requirements to attend to the emotional well-being of a child under supervision, also dealing with maybe stressed out parents. So there's a lot of strain.
This comparison is beautiful, by the way, I might add.
Well, it is, because let me get to the punchline, okay? Because when we talk about, the safety of ensuring animal well-beings, in safety ensuring children's well-being, exposure to pathogens, when you talk about animals and the risk of rabies, well, oh my God, exposure to childhood illness and human pathogens. So when you think about this, you go, oh my God, these are two jobs. One is predominantly male, one is predominantly female. The average range for an animal control worker for hourly average is $34.21. The average Job Bank Canada rate for an early childhood educator is $20. So that's the jaw-dropping moment, right? And so this is where pay equity comes in to say we've got to look at jobs based on all of these factors and the value they provide and adjust the wages if they're providing the same level of skill under the same conditions.
Oh, I get it now. That actually really helped clarify for me. That was perfect. Thank you. So is pay equity a widely adopted practice around the world? And how does Ontario's approach compare to others globally?
Good question, because pay equity is still broadly understood as the first concept I said, equal pay for equal work, that very visible concept of, two people doing the same job needing the same compensation. So there's a lot of confusion in the global market and even in global laws about pay equity, because I'll be reading a pay equity law, sitting back going, well, this is actually really just an equal pay law. So it's not as broadly understood as it should be. Ontario, was really the first jurisdiction globally to have pay equity laws, the sort of comparable worth that we just went through laws codified for public and private sectors. So we don't see many countries actually doing this. There's only 5 countries globally that have pay equity defined as I've just explained it.
Yeah. This makes me feel a little bit better that I was struggling with the concept between equal pay and pay equity. If governments around the world are still struggling with this concept a little bit too, so good to know. And information is powerful. So the more we know, Why is pay equity so crucial in the workplace, though? What makes it a key factor in promoting fairness?
Sure. Well, I think overall fairness and equality is just a vital part of being human and human dignity. And so, a lot of pay equity concepts are rooted in human rights law, anti-discrimination law. There's also a huge important piece for economic justice. You need economic justice broadly in society, but also in your workforce. If you're an employer, employee satisfaction and engagement is going to be linked to the level of economic justice that your employees believe they have, and having fair compensation practices, especially pay equity, because it's really this concept of comparable worth and saying how much do we value certain jobs over others, and what does that compensation look like? But you have the gendered layer to it, because we know historically, we've talked about this, jobs that women have done have been undervalued. So when employers engage in this, they're really, getting to economic and compensation justice, but also you're going to see increased employee satisfaction and engagement. There's also a huge reputational risk, I think, for companies who aren't doing this. Adhering to pay equity, first of all, at least in Ontario, many provinces across the country also have pay equity, but mostly for the just public sector. So, in Ontario, it's adhering to the law. And if you're federally regulated, also adhering to the federal laws around this. And I would say, finally, also business performance. We've seen and we know that pay equity positively impacts business performance, because you have people who come to work feeling valued, feeling engaged, feeling seen, and feeling recognized for the work. So when you have, pay equity that's tied into achieving gender equity and even, racial diversity, because you're doing this ideally intersectionally, you get a more innovative, resilient, and competitive working environment.
I couldn't agree more. I hope businesses are really absorbing that message, especially, we do live in a call out culture. And as you said,
Yes.
the more people are informed, the more at risk you put your business if you're not following the law and working towards, pay equity for all. So
Absolutely.
Kadie, as usual, thank you so much for joining me. This was really enlightening. So there's going to be a blog post up on whatshesaidtalk.com that's going to dive into this a little bit deeper. And I think I just may take this example you shared today and sort of put it in writing, because it's beautifully explained. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And spoiler alert, we will be publishing that example in a big piece that we can share with you, because it's a great one that brings the concept home.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next month.